hereby resolves on behalf of the citizens of Newcastle to write to the Prime Minister, the Honourable Kevin Rudd, expressing its support for the actions of the federal government in its decision to provide a national apology to the stolen generation, and that the Council's support for this apology be conveyed to the local Aboriginal community through the Council's Bureaucratic Committee.
And what devastating impacts that we've had on. The report mentions a statement from NECA, which of course is the Aboriginal group that tries to put people back in contact again with their families, because this continued right up until the 1970s, and there are a lot of us in this room who were voting at that time. And on that, most of us realise the policies that our governments have, and that's why the government is doing the apology, because their policies actually meant, on racial grounds, the forced removal of children. I'm not talking about those children who are taken away in black or white society because of welfare issues, because of neglect. This is purely based on governance and so on, which are in those photographs of mine. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about forced removal and the destructive effects that came from that. And we're talking about commending our government for apologising for government policies. We're congratulating them, and we're marking this as an incredibly important historical occasion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is very much an historic occasion. I heard today that the Australian Parliament was opened for the first time with a welcome to country by the Indigenous people. And Lord Mayor, I was wondering if you'd be able to include in your motion a part B that goes along the lines of the next council of Newcastle City Council is open with a welcome to country, while remembering that it is only a step forward. It's something that was called for, well, almost 11 years ago now in the Stolen Generations report. And I guess it's one small step on the road to reconciliation, and a reconciliation I think won't really be fully finalised until we have a treaty and until there are reparations.
Okay, thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor McKenzie.
Just briefly, Lord Mayor, to be very clear that I've got absolute support for what the federal government's doing and what we're doing in the chamber tonight, and just to acknowledge the work that's been done by Indigenous people campaigning for their rights as people, as the traditional owners of this country. There's many wonderful Indigenous people that have worked so hard for so many years. It's a great tribute to the whole Indigenous community, both here in Newcastle and throughout Australia, to see that this is occurring at last. It is just another step. There's still a long way to go, and we can't relax. We need to keep on working with the traditional owners of this country to keep improving, so that they've got the same type of rights that they should have always had, in it, the conditions that most people in Australia have and expect now.
First referendum I got to vote had the right to vote. It's taken 40 years to go from step 1 to step 2. Something that's incredibly long overdue. However, I think we're all delighted to see that the right government is going to make that second step tomorrow. And we've seen in the paper talks of compensation for the stolen generation. I'd like to see compensation in the form of billions of dollars being put into things like Aboriginal health and Aboriginal education. That's the third step, and I hope that doesn't take another 40 years. I'd like to see it done in the next 3 years.
The sentiments of this council have been expressed some 10 years ago with the formation of the Bureaucratic Committee and the document that was devised to enunciate the relationship that we have with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and that was done by former Lord Mayor Greg Hurst, and we should acknowledge that. We've been operating by that protocol for the last 10 years or thereabouts. Councillor Gordon has indicated that the State Parliament has taken action some years ago. I dare say that we wouldn't be at the point we're at now with the federal government about to make this apology and these words if it hadn't been for the work of the people who have represented and made representation over those years. Councillor Parsons, you mentioned something's taken 40 years. It means at the beginning it's taken, to get to that 40 years, it took 160 years. So on that scale we can look forward to a much faster process. I expect and believe that the words tomorrow will be another point that we can all move forward as a united nation, and I think that's incredible. It just strikes me almost beyond belief that we are the ones who are here to hear these words tomorrow. And in generations to come, our grandchildren and their kids are going to say, well, grandmother or grandfather was there when it happened. I think that's the way it will be recorded, and it will be part of our history forever. So it's an exciting time. It's a time for some passion and a time for optimism. And all of those things will culminate tomorrow. The council is open to take the vote. I'll now formally take the vote. I'm going to take this vote by division. I'll ask those in favour for a stand. Councillor McKenzie, Councillor Oswald, Councillor Parsons, Councillor Arnold, Councillor Hume, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Tate, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Dorby, Councillor Councillor Scobie. I'll ask that the minutes show that Councillor Horley and Councillor Scully had leave of absence. I'll declare the motion carried unanimously.